Hi, I am Pushpendra Singh, doing my engineering from the Rutgers College of Engineering and Technology. I have made I have made this project medical store management system under the guidance of Mr. Ranjit Kumar and Dr. Sandeep Saxena. I am very thankful to them for providing me this golden opportunity. I would like to present my project in the format of the index as shown. First of all, I will explain about the project, like what are the needs and what are the problems it resolves, and then I will explain about the requirements that are needed during the making of the project. Then I will explain the backend working and GUI along with the database. Then I will also try to explain the ER diagram and database for the more clarity, and coding and explanation will go on at the end. So it is a medical store management system. It is a Java based application. I have made all the graphical interface in the using Java. So what it does actually, it provides the various functions that resolves the problem of the medical store owner, like to manage its employees, workers, and medicines, how many medicines are left, and how many medicines are sold, what are the special cases, like in emergency some patients come and they buy medicines at emergency time, so without any consent of doctors. So like that information it is used to store. It helps to store the vital information which may help the owner of the medical store in future. So it basically stores the medicines, employees, and transaction records. It is a one-stop solution for the medical store owners to retrieve the information anytime, anywhere, even from their home using this application, if database is stored in the cloud. So let's continue. I have made two rights for the application. One right is for employees and another one is for the administrator. The administrator would be the usually medical store owner, and he has full access of the medical store application. Its username and password is provided by default as admin and root. It is stored nowhere in the database. It is provided by the inside the application, and by mistake if administrator forgets, so he needs to contact the uh, engineer for the repair. And for employees, and there are not much access of the database, only the required part that is needful for the employees, that is only accessible, like giving attendance, adding medicine record, adding patient record. There is not any like deletion or updation they can do. Only administrator can delete the record of the medicine or employees. So if each and every employee has their unique username and unique username and password, so each employee work is uh, uh, can be distinguished from each other. And if any employee forget their username, they can reset uh, their username by contacting the administrator, or else if they forget the password, they can reset it either directly contacting the administrator or through the graphical interface, without much hesitating to the directly to the administrator. So let's see how they manage the records and how administrator manage the record in further slides. So the minimum requirements to run this software in the computer is the minimum CPU that is required is Platinum 3 or equivalent. Recommended CPU is Core i3. If it is possible the 6th generation, the application will run smoothly there is no will be no issue from the CPU. CPU speed should be 1 gigahertz or higher is recommended. Minimum RAM should be 256 MB. Recommended RAM is 4 GB, and nowadays 4 GB is easily available and most of the computers come with the 4 GB RAM. Operating system is Windows. Windows XP can smoothly run the application, but it is recommended that uh, if owner has the latest version of the Windows, then the application would run efficiently. Low-end graphics is enough for the application. There is no need of any graphics. Even Intel inbuilt graphics can also run the application. 2 GB space is recommended if database is in the local, because database size might get higher, and there might be problem in the application, and it may cause error during the execution. So these are basically the software requirements for making the application. These are the requirements for implementing and coding the application. To run the application, most of them might be not required if database is stored in the server, because it will be all will be integrated in the server itself. So owner node is not required to install like MySQL and MySQL J connector. If it is if owner is willing to store the database locally, so that time only all these will be required, and one or two may not be required because it will be in the execution. So it will only help during the making of the application. Like NetBeans is not required for the owner to install, as it is only helpful for making the application, and for execution it will be only plug and play type, means install and directly run and run and manage the application through the graphical user. Everything will be managed in the background. So for making the application, MySQL database to store and retrieve the information is required. MySQL J for connect J, which is a connector to connect the Java with the database. Java development kit is required for packages in the Java. As we know, without packages, Java is no more Java. So it is the mandatory. NetBeans ID is used for making the application. It is the integrated development environment which provides various functions of managing the Java and coding the Java more easily. rs to xml.jar file is actually a Java file which has a bunch of codes, pre-defined codes to manage the tables in the database, and to run and execute the queries to update the table accordingly. Setup compiler is used as to make executable installer of that .exe file of the project. This .exe file will be provided to the medical store owner to install the application, and rest will be done in background itself. Owner just need to install the application and run it, and use the application as required by the owner. So for the background working of the application, that is backend working of the application to connect it to the database, we use MySQL connector, MySQL J connector to export the queries from Java codes to the database for executing and retrieving the required information. Once database executes the query, it retrieves the required information as the output and send it back to the Java. So how it is will be displayed in the graphical user interface, that is done through rs2xml.jar file, which is added with the help of NetBeans in the libraries of the application, Java application. The MySQL JDBC, that is Java database connectivity, helps to achieve this functionality inside the Java. There are various JDBC drivers like JDBC ODBC driver, native API driver, thin driver. So in this we use JDBC ODBC driver. So um, so so overall I want to explain in this page is that once the query is transmitted to the database through the JDBC ODBC driver and MySQL connector, and then it is executed in the database in the backend. Then it is once the output is retrieved, it is sent to the Java application. Then through rs2xml.jar file, it is made suitable for the graphical user interface that I will make to display the output to the medical store owner. If there is any error, so that is also coded in the Java. I will explain it also for how I will manage the errors if any error occurred in the database and how it will be handled in the Java. So let's see. So it is the first view of the application after the installation, which will be in front of the medical store owner. Through attendance tab, its employees can give attendance directly, which will be updated in the database. If administrator login, the admin can log in to manage all and to play all his roles. That is full database administration, and that is provided in the application. Through exit button, application closes, and to run the application again, medical store owner needs to re-execute the application, not installation actually. There will be separate executable file through which the application can be executed, and it will run from the last previous state from which it is exited. So in this this is the new panel which opens once attendance button is clicked. It has 3 buttons: sign in, register and menu. Through sign in button, employee can sign in using its unique username and password to manage the database and to add and modify the record as provided in the rights. Through register button, if employee is new and it is granted that he or she can install the application and register himself or herself, then employee can proceed the registration through this register button. And if employee register through this register button, then employee will be able to set its own unique username and password during the registration process only. Employee can also be registered by the administrator if during the recruitment employee is selected, then employee registration can also be done by the administrator. Then administrator will provide the username set by him or her and password, which will be auto generated as 1 2 3 4 for every time admin register the employee by itself. This password can be modified later by the employee as it damage the privacy of the employee. If password will be known to all, then everybody can access each other record. Then what is the use of the application privacy? Through menu button, previous panel will open, through which administrator login button will be able to access, and or application also be exited if it is required. This panels open when sign in button is clicked. Actually, this is the login panel where employee enter its username here in this text field, and password in this field. So username is unique, and password is set by the administrator or modified later if administrator is registered by the admin. Then when login button is clicked, then the username and password is checked in the database if username exists in the database or not. If username does not exist, then it will show the error that user not found, and if password is wrong, then it will also show error that password is wrong. If employee forgot the password, then this forget password button will help the employee to reset the password by using its own unique username and other information, which I will share in the next slides. This is the exit button, which through which application can be exited from this panel if username, if employee by mistake come to this panel and is not registered, or if it is required by the employee itself. So let's see what is the next. So this panel is for changing the password if registration of the employee is done by the administrator, or if employee forgets the password, then also he or she will be able to modify the password through this panel by using the username. As we know, username is unique, so here it comes in mind that username can be entered by anybody's other else username, and password can be modified here, and the work can be accessed then by the hacker or something like, and the problem in the data privacy. So that's why username is unique, and it is recommended that administrator provide the employee to register itself by its own pace. That's why to make the data privacy more strong, if username is set by the employee, then it will be in the employee fundamental duty to not to share it to other employees. The first of all, the username is inserted in this text field, then that username is checked in the database if it exists or not. If it exists and if it is found, then the employee is able to enter the password here, and once the reset button is clicked, the password will be set as described here for this username. So it is very simple. If employee does not enter anything here or here, then error will be displayed. Please enter some value, or to please don't make them empty. And that I will explain later when I will be explaining the coding. And so this panel helps to reset the password for the employee. This password generator tool, which is also included in this application, actually this password generator generates the strong password which is recommended for the employee to use this tool. Employee can set its own password, no problem, but if the password generator tool is used, it will generate alphanumeric uh, password that will be much more stronger. Then employee needs to learn that password or write somewhere which cannot be accessed by anybody. Through this back to login panel, the login panel will open, through which by entering the username entered here and the new password entered here, which is modified in the database. Then once the login button is clicked there, then it will not show the password error, it will directly give access for that username. That's why here the note is given. If employee forgets the username itself, then he needs to contact the admin to match the information to get the username back, or to change the username. If username is leaked or something like that, then also employee can contact the admin. Actually, this is the special case that I was talking about, when to change the employee username. The password generator I will explain in the next upcoming slides. So let's see. So this is the password generator panel, which is opened if open password generator tool button is clicked. So here I have set the maximum length limit of the password, that is 10, which is possibly much for the employees to log in. But this software, actually this password generator can generate up to 100 character length of the password, but I have set the limit. So if any employee enters the length more than 10, then it will show the message that please enter the length below 10 or 10. So the length is given in the numeric form only, like 1 2 3 4 5. Like if 5 or 6 length is given and generate now button is clicked, then here a password will be generated and shown to the user, which will be alphanumeric and unique. It is possible that password may be repeated, but the length of the password is 5, so there are not or we can say there is very less chance for repeating the password, as employees cannot be in medical store. How many employees can be there? Max to max 50 or 60 if medical store is big or is large enough. But I can see that medical store is not as much as big, or the staff members are not there as large count as in other main offices. So 10, that's why I have set the limit 10 here. If any employee wants very strong password, then he can or she can write the length 8, 9 or 10. This button back to registration form will lead the employee to the registration form, and where he was or she was registering himself or herself. So I will explain the registration form in the upcoming slides. So and then back to password reset and the password panel that I was explaining in the previous slide. And so this button will lead there only. I will explain this in upcoming slides. This is the registration panel. When employee click the register button in the second panel which I was explaining when attendance button is clicked. So this is the actually the registration panel through which employee can register himself or herself if the person is new. And first of all, employee is required to write its name, then unique username. As I was saying, here employee can write or decide its own username by himself or herself and keep it as a secret, because if a username is leaked, then whole work will be leaked, because it can be modified, because password can be modified by anyone then, and the work will be leaked by for the other employees also. So it is recommended that username should be private. And here username, right after the employee writes the username, then he or she is able can write the password here. Password field should not be empty. If any of the field is empty, then it will show the error that please fill the field, or it will show the error that field cannot remain empty. So password length is recommended is 5 or 6 characters. Password can be guessed by the employee or generated by using the password generator, and can be pasted here as it is. If when register button is clicked, the information entered by the employee here will be stored in the database. So now this username and this password can be used to log in into the employee panel. Here I have also provided the note for the employees to use the password generator. This button will lead there, which I have explained earlier. This login button will lead the employee to the login panel to enter these credentials and to continue its work. This is the attendance panel, which opens when successfully employee sign in through the login panel. Then unique username is entered here by the employee and the date in which he was there, like 26 Feb 2020. The date should be entered in YYYY, MM and DD format, that is 2020-02-20, that means 20th Feb of 2020. Then when mark present button is clicked, then present of the employee is marked in the database, then including the date written here. Employee cannot cheat here, because admin can see the changes when the changes are done, and like 26 seconds ago or 50 seconds ago, 1 minute ago. So if the employee is changing the record of future or past, then it will be known to the administrator, and then it will be his or her crisis. If already marked present, that means if the mark present button is clicked, then this button will lead to the dashboard of the employee. I will explain the dashboard in the coming slides. And this menu button will lead to that first menu, which I was explaining in the first view of the application, that is having 3 buttons: attendance, administrator login, and exit button. So let's see next. It is the employee panel, which is accessed by the employee after the successful login, through which employee can access various panels like add patient entry panel, add transaction record panel, add medicine record panel. When add patient entry button is clicked, a new panel to manage the uh, which is having limited rights, like only patient can be added in the database by the employee. If there is any wrong or something misinformation is stored by the employee, then he or she should directly contact the admin to remove such information. And this transaction record means if any staff member or employee sell the medicine or the medicine is received by the employee, then this transaction record button will open the panel to manage the transactions that held in during the day. Means if any employee manages the transaction. Every employee has their unique username, so every employee, each transaction is associated with unique employee. That means the transaction done by the employee is associated to each employee. That means admin can point the employee who is storing the transaction or who has through which the medicine is sold, and then that information can be retrieved by the admin. Add medicine record. Through this button the medicine record panel will open, and so if any new medicine come in the store, so employee can accept it and record it through this button, means through this panel, which I will explain that later. This logout button will directly log out to the employee from this panel and lead to the home, that is first view that I had explained. Through this panel, patient entries can be entered into the database by the employee. It has following fields as shown, that is patient ID. The patient ID is generated by the employee itself. An example is given here, but it cannot be used, like PID 123, PID 012 or any else. That is decided by the employee itself. Then patient name, medicine, that must be given to the patient. Cost of the medicine. Any debt means if any discount or any extra charges is taken from the patient, then it is entered here, which will be calculated into the record and displayed here in this square field. Title 1, title 2, title 3, title 4. Actually it is the table function, table panel that is added to this panel. So when refresh button is clicked, this table get updated with a database table. So once the refresh button is clicked, then the information is retrieved from the database and displayed here. The add entry button will help the employee to add the new entry to this record. And to see the updated entry, the refresh button will refresh the record and the updated entry can be seen here. This back to login will help the employee to reach the login panel where he or she needs to write its unique username and password again if the employee wants to log in again, or there is exit button to exit the application. This is the transaction record panel through which transactions are maintained. So here transaction ID, that is also generated or written by the employee only. That means like in previous slide I have explained the patient record. The patient ID is unique. That means if the patient ID is entered by the uh, employee is not unique, then it will show the error, and patient ID needs to be entered should be unique. Similarly, transaction ID should also be unique. Then cost given by the customer, that means the customer the price the customer given to the employee. If any discount offered by the employee or any other bench relationships, or means any discount that is given for the medicine. And here date of the transaction is written here the YYYYMMDD format. So when refresh button is clicked, the database record is displayed here with these entries, that transaction ID, customer cost given by the customer, discount and date. The add entry button will add these records to this transaction record in the database. When refresh button is clicked, then that updated record can be seen here. This back to login panel will lead the employee to the login panel. This is the employee medicine record management panel, in which if any new medicine come to the store, then that medicine can be accepted by any of the employee and added here. As we can see that unique username is associated with the medicine, so admin can point the employee that if any error in the medicine or something problem, then admin can point the employee directly. So here new medicine name is entered by the employee, like paracetamol or anything that come in the store, the MRP mentioned in the medicine, and any discount that is offered, that should be offered by the store, is entered here. If no discount, then 0 should be entered here. No field should remain empty here, otherwise it will show the error. Once the record is written here, this add button will add the record in the database. Then the database that is updated database can be seen using the refresh button. Once the refresh button is clicked, the database is displayed here, that is medicine record table is displayed here with these records, and the updated record can also be seen here. This back to login panel will lead the employee to the login panel. This is the administrator login panel, which opens when administrator login button is clicked from the main menu. Here username and password is provided by the application. This username and password is not stored in the database, so it cannot be modified by the administrator itself. So if the administrator forget the username and password, then he or she should contact the engineer for the repair. Once the username and password is entered correctly, then login to dashboard button will lead to the administrator dashboard with privileged controls, and that means privileged access to the database. This back to menu button will open the main menu again. So this is the admin dashboard. As we can here observe a bunch of buttons like employee record, medicine record, transaction record, patient record, critical cases, exit and menu. So these buttons will help the corresponding panels with administrative rights. So employee record button will open the employee's record. It will not open that employee panel that I had explained earlier. It will open the more advanced panel with multiple controls, with admin controls. the medicine record, transaction record, patient record, all these records can be accessed by the admin itself, and he or she is able to do anything in that record, means adding, deletion, updation, anything can be done by the admin. So here is a new that employee also not have access, and that is critical cases panel. This is the case when some emergency cases come to the medical store, then that case is directly managed by the admin. No employee has access to the critical cases record, so that record is entered by the admin itself. Since there should be no error in the record for the critical cases, because that is important, and if any error occurs in the future, then that is the problem for the medical store to run. So I will explain all these in upcoming slides. This exit button will close the application, and menu button will open the menu panel, main menu panel that I had explained. So this is the admin employees record management panel. It is the panel which can only be accessed by the admin. This panel helps the admin, or that is store manager or something that manages the store, to manage the employees working in the store. This refresh button will retrieve the information from the database and show the all working employees registered in the database. This employee name means if any recruitment is done by the medical store manager, then if that person wants to add the employee record in the database by itself, then that can be done by using this add button. To insert a new record here, employee name and employee username that is chosen by the administrator itself is given to the new employer. Then when add button is clicked, then that username is stored in the database with this default password 1234. That's why that's why the administrator should inform the employee that this is the default password, so he or she should change the password. And if any critical cases there is data privacy issues, then username can be changed by the administrator by entering the username, old username here, then entering the new username here, and this change username button will update this old username with the new username. And if any employee resigns, means if any employee leaves the job, then that its username should enter here, and once delete button is clicked, then that username will be deleted from the record. During deletion, for deleting the record, no need of writing the new username. This can remain empty also, no issues, because only this field is used during the delete button process. This view button will display all the employee attendance here with the username, date and attendance, on which date the username was present. This back to dashboard button will lead to the administrative dashboard panel, and this exit button will close the application. This is the admin medicine record management panel, through which admin can manage the record of the medicine with administrative rights. Here, as we can observe, there is a delete medicine button also. So if any error done by the employee in adding the medicine, then it should be informed to the administrator to take the action, because the wrong information will lead to the wrong path of the medical store. So entering the medicine name here, MRP and any discount, then add medicine button will add this medicine by the admin to the medicine record. So if uh, any medicine name needs to be changed, then old medicine name should be written here and new medicine name should written here. Then change medicine name will change this old medicine name to this new medicine name. For this change medicine name button, no need to write MRP and discount. So and this refresh button will update the record and display it to the admin this table. This exit button will close the application and this dashboard button lead the admin to the admin dashboard. This is the admin transaction control panel. It has multiple functions as we can observe that employees do not have. So here are the delete button function and this is the only special function provided to the admin, that is not to the employee. So admin can also add the new transaction by entering the customer name, discount or loss hour and date in the given format. And once add button is clicked, then the record is added to the database, and once refresh button is clicked, the updated table can be observed here. To modify the transaction record, there is an instruction for the admin that record to modify the certain record, that record should be deleted first, then inserted as a new record by entering these fields. So if any mistake done by the employee, then that record should be deleted first, then should be inserted as a new record. There is no special form provided here to directly update the record. That should be there. Actually, the transaction record should be maintained like this only, as it is a critical information of money related information. So directly providing the updation is not safe. So that's why I have given such kind of functionality. And so this is the panel. Back to dashboard button will lead to the administrator dashboard, and the exit button will directly close the application. As we can observe, this is the administrative patient record management panel. Through this panel, admin can add new entry to the patient record. This refresh button will display the updated record here. Admin has a special rule, that's why there is a delete patient record button also here. If any patient entry is wrong or something is wrong, then that patient record can be deleted from the table by entering the unique patient ID here. This exit button will close the application, and this back to dashboard will lead the admin to the admin dashboard. This is the critical important cases management panel, especially designed only for the administrator. This is done for the security reasons because the critical or important cases that come to the medical store should only be managed by the admin and should not be the employees, because if any mistake done by the employee, that will be considered as a critical mistake, and that is most important for the medical store because it is a special or critical cases of the patient. So admin can do add or delete the record. And so if any patient come with a critical case, then unique patient ID should be entered here, patient name, cost, and date in which the critical case come, and should be entered in this field. Once add button is clicked, then first of all the patient ID is checked if it is unique or not. If it is not unique, error will be displayed that please enter the unique patient ID. And if patient ID is unique, then that record is updated in the database. That can be checked using this refresh button, and so it will display the database table here. Actually the table in the database for this critical cases is different from the table for the general patient management, that is can also be managed by the employees. So any patient ID from that table can be repeated here. That means patient ID from that general patient record table can be used here as a patient ID if it is unique in this record. The patient can be deleted by entering the patient ID here and hitting the delete button. It will completely record the patient, delete the record of that patient from the table. This menu button will lead to the main menu. This back to dashboard button will lead to the administrative dashboard. The exit button will close the application itself. As we can observe, the exit button is provided in each panel of the administrative control. This is for the reasons of the safety of the administration, because if any some unknown person come in front of the application, then administrator can immediately close the application to hide the information. So it is a very helpful button at that time. So that's why exit button is provided in each panel of the administrator. To manage the record in the database, the admin database is used here. As we can observe here, the database name here admin, and under admin there are 1 2 3 4 5 6 tables, like attendance table for managing the attendance, critical patient table for managing the critical patient record that I had explained earlier, employee record for managing the employee by the administration, administrative controls, and medicine record by employees and the admin itself, patient record, and transaction record, that is transact underscore record. This is how actually the attendance record is in the database in the background. So in the background these queries can be used, like use admin will change the database from none or any other database to the admin database, and DESC table name, that is attendance here, will display the attributes and all the data types and information related to the attendance table, as we can observe here. So I have created this table by using the create table, table name, and bracket, and add column name and data type, and if that is key, which type of key is there, primary key or unique key or not, and by using separating the each column name with the along with the data type with the commas, and ending with the terminator, that is semicolon. So like that each and every table is created in this database manually. First of all, when creating the application, you need to create the database tables manually, then rest of the things can be done using the GUI. So for this I have displayed some sample record here using the select asterisk from table name, that is attendance here. So we can observe the record, one of the record that is entered in this table. This is the employee record table, which have 3 columns as displayed, and the sample output is also displayed here in the select command, select asterisk from table name query. So like this we have bunch of tables, 6 tables, and that I am going to show in next slides. This is the medicine record table that manages the medicines, as I have explained earlier how it is managed in the GUI. It can also be managed through the query, but it is not, the query directly cannot be executed or implemented by the medical store manager or owner. So it is done only through the GUI. It is the patient record table, as we can observe. It is a transact underscore record table which has 4 columns: transaction ID, cost, discount, and date, as we have already observed in the how it will be managed. We have observed in the previous slides. So I am actually going to show how they are displayed and how it is displayed in actual execution after the slide presentation. So let's move on. This is the critical patient record management table under the critical underscore patient table, as I have already told. It is different from the general patient record management and table which I had shown in previous slide. Actually, this is the ER diagram of the database and application. So it explains each and every panels which I had explained in previous slides, their functions and all. So it actually shows those information in the form of flowchart. As we can observe here, a database admin is there in which these tables are created. So these tables are shown here. So as separated from this, there is a diagram that is the ER diagram. This is the main employee admin menu. This is the first menu which I had shown, which has 3 buttons: attendance, administrator login, and exit. So through this panel, either the user can exit or proceed to these, the arrows. That means through employee admin menu, attendance can be accessed, or admin can log in or exit. Means through employee attendance can be accessed through employee admin menu, and through this employee menu, the main menu, that is admin login, can also be accessed, as I have showed you in the PPT, that means previous presentation. So from employee attendance panel, we can observe it. We can also go back to the main menu again, or we can do these tasks, that is sign in and register, that I had explained you earlier. That employee or attendance menu means the next menu. We can either sign in, that has 3 buttons, that is sign in, register, or exit. So I had shown this is exit, sign in, or register. Through sign in panel also exit button is there, and through sign in we can do these tasks, that is attendance. We can attendance monitor or forward password, that means to give the attendance by with the employee. Either employee can give the attendance or forgot password. That means if employee forget the password through sign in panel, they can um, they can change the password using the username. That should be hidden. That should be hidden and should not be told to the other user. So through attendance panel also, and employee can go to or user can go to the main menu through attendance monitor panel. That means the sign in page, or employee can employee panel can also be accessed here, through which, that means that panel which has multiple buttons to access different panel by the employee. That means with employee rights, that is patient entry, transaction record and medicine record. So I had explained all these panels earlier, which has these functionalities: sign in, which may go to the sign in directly and exit, transaction record and patient record. Similarly for the transaction record and the patient record. For the register panel, password generator can be accessed, I had showed earlier, or through password generator again register panel can be opened. So, and this forgot password also can be accessed through password generator panel. There was a forgot password. So this is the this part is actually employee part, which can actually be managed by the admin also. So you cannot say, but you can say that employee cannot access this area. This is completely for admin. So here only admin can log in here, and admin dashboard will open after the successful login. Through this dashboard exit, that means as we can have observed that each panel has exit for the security reasons and safety purpose. I have provided the exit button in each panel. So through admin dashboard, admin can go to employee record, medicine record, transaction record, patient record and critical cases panels. So this diagram actually shows the how panels are linked with each other. So this is the ER diagram which I was talking about in the index page. So let's move on. So let's now go to the coding part. From next slide I will be explaining the coding part of the application. I will also explain the coding part and show the coding part in the NetBeans when I will show the execution and running of the application. In this slide I want to explain about the panel change coding. So this coding is actually done in each panels. So whenever a button is clicked, the corresponding panel gets opened by using these codes. The general format of the code is here. So here the name, first of all, the new panel name is entered here. Then some variable name, we can take any variable name here, and new is here the keyword that is reserved for the Java. So we know that whenever a new class or something new is created, so we can write here actually directly var and the variable name new and new panel, that also should work. So here new underscore panel with the brackets are used along with the semicolon. As we can observe in the example here, attendance underscore register underscore login is the panel which I want to open after the button is clicked in the panel, some panels, old panel we can say. So this new attendance register login panel get opened when it is called here. This panel name is actually created during the coding only, as we can observe that here is a void attendance action performed. That means attendance button coding is here, which I had shown you in the first view of the application that had three buttons: attendance and that admin login and exit button. So that attendance button coding is here. This dispose actually close the panel and open this panel, attendance register in login panel that I had given name. So once this is opened, so it is by default is hidden. That means when this button will, the user will not see any panel. So I have to make it as visibility true. So to set the visibility true, I have taken the variable name here frame. So variable name dot set visible true is done to make the panel visible to the user. So now user can interact with the panel with the buttons. So buttons will have the similar patch of code to change the panels. I have used these libraries in the project. The java.awt.handles exception library is used to handle the various exceptions, like known exceptions that is handled using try, catch functions. There are also finally and throws function. So I will explain it during the coding only. So to provide the connectivity to the SQL database, I have used the java.sql.asterisk, which provided by the Java itself. All these libraries are provided by the Java. So I have used net.protein.sql.star means asterisk to provide the connectivity to the rs2xml library which I had imported using the NetBeans. So to show dialog box, I have used javax.swing.theOptionPane. It is used to display a dialog box. That means it will display an additional panel, smaller panels which contain the message which I want to show during if there are any errors or known exceptions that occur. So yeah, so JOptionPane will open the smaller panel in front of the user which have message to resolve the issue. To display record in the application, these functions are used. So first I will explain the try and catch function. This function is used to handle errors. First try function is executed. If any error occurs, then catch function handles the error. I have used only try and catch functions. Yes, there are also throws and finally function. So I have avoided those functions because that is not required in my case. So actually that can also be used to make more application more efficient. But these two functions can manage all of the exceptions that might occur. So I have used these two only. The class.forName function loads the driver, that is JDBC ODBC driver. I have used the driver manager .get connection function makes the connectivity to the target database, means admin. Prepared statement function is used to prepare the statement or query stored in some variable, and in execute query function executes the query in database. It is modeled in the format like table name which I want to access dot set model db utils dot result set to table model result to display the record in the table. The close function close the connectivity to the database. After using the creating the connection, each connection should be closed after the usage, because that remained open and might create issues later if it is not closed. So it is advisable, and I have used that advice. in my programs that I have closed each and every connection after the creation and execution of the query. So this is the patch of code that to display the records I am showing here some from my coding. This is the screenshot I have taken for the this slide. So this is the try function under which this bunch of code is written, which can cause error. Then under this catch function, the code is written to handle those errors. Actually, this is the main try function. Under this, again there is a try function. This catch is associated to this try actually. So this try function has the catch function later, and that is not displayed in this slide. So I have taken the screenshot because I want to show only the how the connection is created here. So class, as I have already explained, the class.forName function is used to load the driver. So here I am accessing the driver using this com.mysql.jdbc driver. Here the connection is created under the try function. That means if the connection is not created or any error occurs, then this catch function will handle the exception on errors. So here connection is the data type and con is the variable here. Here I have used con variable, any variable name can be used here. Here driver manage.get connection is the predefined keyword, and then in braces I have accessed the database. So here I have used actually the database in the my PC only locally, and no server is used. So here if any server is used, then that server address is written along with the that admin and password, admin username and password of the database. So in my case it is having root as the admin username and there is no password set, so it should be empty. So here I am actually trying to display the medicine record. So I have written the query in the form of a string, which is stored in this SQL key variable, that is select asterisk from medicine underscore record. Then this prepared statement actually statement function actually initiates the driver that there is some query that is going to be executed, and that query is stored in the variable SQL. Then this result set, that means the output that is come from the database is stored in this rs variable. So once the execute query function run, then that query is sent to the database. The database executes it and gives the output, and that output is sent back to this Java, and this result set variable, that means rs, stores the output. Then this output function is used to display the record in the form of table that I have shown you, that rs2.xml file that is used to means format the output in the form of displayable, in the displayable form in the GUI that I have made. So the data that is received in this rs will be displayed in the form of table in the GUI. Then this con, that is the variable name for the connection, is closed using the close function. So if any error occurs here, that if some error caused in the database only, then there is no result in the rs variable. So catch function will handle those errors and show it to the user with the error message. Error is with the message that is should be displayed by the Java. So if any critical error occurs, like every time error is only occurring, so that employee or admin should directly contact each other with the engineer. So let's see what's the next. To add or modify, delete the record. The if else and if else statements are used to check if user has not made any invalid input in the text boxes. That means it checks whether user is not making the text box empty or some invalid information, or like if it must be numeric, then user entering some text there, that all these conditions are checked in the if else statement. Then last else statement is used to execute the actual function that should be done on the input done by the user in the text box. The try and catch function, as I have already explained, class.forName, driver manager, prepared statement, and execute query in the option .show message dialog. So all these functions I have explained in the previous slide. I have written again here to not to confuse with the creation of the application. So let's move to the next slide. This is the sample of the code that I have written in the NetBeans for making checking the condition, like if user has made the empty text box, or if user has, means this also checks if it is empty, that means, and this also text means this also checks if the text box is empty or not. And so I have shown the corresponding error. Please enter the name of the medicine. So actually it is a medicine record. That means employee needs to write the medicine record there, and medicine, that patient name, medicine name, cost, etc., etc., which I have explained earlier. So here are the different text box names, like med name txt, that means medicine name, mrp txt, that means mrp field, and this DIF, disk text, that means discount text field, discount field. So if any of the field remains empty, then this any of the condition become true, then this message is displayed, and this else statement will never execute. And if the program runs smoothly and all these conditions become false, then this else statement run. So the connection is, first of all, connection is created, and so I have already explained how it is created, and then try function is used to for the error try and catch. Here the connection is created, and to add the record, and from by after getting the values from the text fields. So here are the question marks, as we can observe here. So these question marks will be replaced with the values entered by the user in the text boxes. So that's why I have made first checked whether that is not empty or not. If it is empty, it will later create the error in the table, or empty null value will be stored in the table. So that should not happen. To prevent that thing, I have previously checked for the null values. Then after getting the values from the text fields, I have replaced these question marks with those values, and connection is, then query sent to the database, then connection is closed. So now catch function is there. If any error occurs here, then this catch function will display the error to the user. So let's continue to the next slide. Actually this is the code to add the record in the medicine record table. This is a similar bunch of code to modify the record in the modify username, means administrator needs to modify the username of the employee for the security reasons, then he or she can easily do it. So here is the code of that I have used. So I have explained earlier also, the same code is there, only required queries is sent to the database, then that is executed, and that is displayed in the form of success message or required message or required output in the form of table. So it goes on like that only. I have done the same things for all the buttons depending on the conditions they need. So I have written the required query for each button, like add, modify, delete. So query goes on like that only. So I will display the queries also in the MySQL database. So let's move on. So this is the patch of code for deleting the record. So I have taken the screenshot after making the application. So these are the screenshots after I have made the project. So to delete the record, I have written this patch of code. I will show all these codes in the application NetBeans itself after the presentation is finished. So I have already explained the code here. Most of the things are common here. Only change is that queries change here, and depending on the query, some needs, there are some change in the functions and the output. If the output is not required, then it is only updated there, and by clicking the refresh button, the updated thing can be seen in the GUI itself. So let's move on. So this is the special password generator code. And the password generator creates the alphanumeric by using these bunch of characters like small ABCD small letters, then capital letters ABCD up to Z, and then 1 2 3 4 9 0. That means whenever the generate password button is clicked, the jumbled characters is chosen from here and displayed in the output. It is so random that as we can see that there are many characters, so there is very less chance of duplicating the password. So that's why I have made this to recommend the employees to use the password generator to make the strong passwords. So I will display the code. Here is the code for the password generator I have done in the NetBeans. Here is the private function of string type, for a private variable list of string type, which stores all these bunch of characters. Then the try and catch function I have already explained. So here actually, first of all, the length variable takes the length from the length variable. That means that is provided by the user itself. I have shown in the GUI already that length is given by the user when generate button is clicked. That length variable, that's alien variable, actually gets the length from that text box. So that length is then copied here in the length variable. So I have already explained that it will first check the length is less than or equal to 100 or not. Actually I have done the patch of code there also in the generate button, that the value of the input value of the where length is more than 10, then it should show error. Instead of coming here, it should first show the error that length should be less than 10. However, my password generator is capable of generating of the length of passwords that is 200. So I have written 100 here. I can modify it, but it was showing error messages if I was using length more than 100. So I have made the password generator for up to length 100, but user can only use it for up to length 10. So if it is condition successfully satisfied, then string builder variable type means a string builder type of variable str is created using the string builder function. So it is actually creating a new class here. So now as we know that we can also put here var, then str, then new string builder. It will also create the str variable of string builder type. So no issues with the Java. So here for variable is used, as we know that for is the function. So for function is used to generate the password, to randomly select the character from here. So this actually execute to select the character from here and append it to the ch variable. That means every time the character is selected and it is stored in the ch variable. Then after the actually every time the character is chosen is stored in the ch variable, then it is printed in the screen. Then it's so random that every time the screen the text field that gets updated is in the within a second only. So that's why we cannot observe the changes, frequent changes. So every time the for loop choose the random character from here, it gets printed in the text field, then again chosen, then printed in the text field. So text field always get updated until the length, up to the length provided, 8, 7, 6, 5, whatever. So if this condition become false, so if user enters the length more than 100, so as in my case there is a limitation of 10 only, but if only password generator is used separately from the application, so if length is further more than 100, then it should show error, please enter length up to 100 only. That means my password generator cannot work perfectly for more than 100 characters. I have checked it personally. So 100 letters, 100 characters, maximum only 100 characters are allowed. So this try function first execute this. If any error occurs, then this catch function will execute. I am very thankful if you've seen my video till here. I hope you understand the slides that I want to explain. So now in next video I will explain the application and its execution. So and making of the application, that means how I have made and what are the codes I have already made the application. So this is the presentation I am doing after making the application and project. So I will explain each and everything how I have